Welcome to Mostly Mets. I'm Jimmy Mack, and what I'm going to be doing today is going over and giving my opinion on the biggest stories and questions regarding the Mets today. This will be a daily thing. If you're interested in this, please subscribe, give me a like, and comment what you think about these topics that I go over. Don't be shy. Tell me what you think. I like to answer comments. So with that, I'm really just going to jump right in here. Obviously, the first big story is that last night, the Mets took Game 1 against the Philadelphia Phillies. It was a very good game for most of the game until we got into the late innings and in the ninth inning specifically. Tyler Megill pitched very well, 5.5 and a third innings, 10 strikeouts, only one hit, did walk 4, would have liked to see him cut down those walks and long counts to get deeper into the game, but overall, really good performance out of Megill against a tough Phillies lineup. The bullpen was also really good, again, up until that ninth inning. We'll get more into that later, but overall, Reed Garrett did his job, Kranick did his job for the most part, and then Diaz did his job after failing at his job to begin with. So overall, the bullpen kind of 50-50, really good for a portion of the game, bad in the ninth inning basically. Lindor, 2 home runs, Winker, a home run. Lindor on fire, looked great. He was most of their offense. He accounted for 4 of their 5 runs, so big game out of Lindor. Soto did not have a hit, did not get on base, but he did hit a couple balls really hard, right into guys' gloves. Would have been base hits most of the time. I think there was 2 balls that were hit over 100 miles per hour. He's just hitting them right at people right now. So overall, pretty good game. But once you get into the ninth, it got unnecessarily, bad for us. It became heart attack city there. They were up 5-0 in the whole game. Kranick trying to go for a 3-inning save. Obviously, in the ninth, he just doesn't have it. Diaz comes in, immediately gives up a home run, a 3-run home run, and then gets them out the rest of the way, striking out Harper to end the game. So overall, listen, they got the win. Wasn't pretty, but that whole narrative of the Mets can't beat good teams, they really dominated Philly last night. Philly was never in that game until the ninth inning. So really impressive win. Philly just, right now, they're just not right. Philly's a good team, but the Mets right now just look better. And the Mets are now 16-7, tied for the best record in baseball with the Dodgers and Padres. So really successful night overall. All right, now obviously in that first point, we talked about Megill. And my second biggest thing today is Megill legit? We've seen Tyler Megill for the last, 4 years, parts of 4 years now with the Mets, and he's always been a guy that you could see has good stuff. He throws the ball hard, he's got a good fastball, he just seems like a good major league pitcher. Personally, I always thought he'd be great in the bullpen because he does have dominant stuff at times, but he does walk too many people and whatever. You can say a lot of negative things about him as well. But this season so far, Tyler Megill, in 5 starts, he has 24 and 2/3 innings pitched. He's given up 20 hits, 11 walks. He has 30 strikeouts, and he has a 1.09 ERA, which is now second in baseball in ERA. It's only 5 starts. It's only 25 innings. So it's a very small sample size. And we've seen Megill do great in the past, but never this well. And actually, if you go back to last year, July of last year, so in his last 13 starts, he's got a 2.23 ERA in 63 innings, 76 strikeouts, and 25 walks in that time period. So to me, I'm looking at that, and that's a much bigger sample size. Now, that's not a full season. That's not even half a season. That's a quarter to a third of a season, basically. Probably about a third of a season. 63 innings pitched. He's not a 200-inning pitcher, so about a third of a season for Megill. And those are really good numbers. Now, I'm not saying he's an ace. I'm not saying he's going to be a top-of-the-line starting pitcher, but maybe he found something with Hefner and the Stearns pitching lab and all that. Maybe there's something there. Maybe we're underrating him at this point. We all look at a guy like Peterson now, and after the success he had last year, now we kind of trust him a little bit. Maybe Megill is kind of becoming that guy. I'm not sold on it yet because, like I said, we have seen stretches before where he's been great and then he's really a 4 ERA lifetime pitcher. But can he be a mid-rotation guy? Can he be a 3.5 ERA kind of pitcher? Now, I don't think he's ever really going to go deep into games. He's a 5, maybe 6 inning pitcher. because he does throw a lot of pitches. He walks people. He gets into a lot of long counts. But if he's able to cut that down, maybe he does become a number 2 or a number 3 starter. Who knows? He's still young enough. I think he's only about 29 years old. So I'm not going to get overexcited about this start. But you have to start asking the question: is this just Megill now? Could this possibly be what he is? Because, like I said, it is a third of a season sample size going back to last year. So take for it what you will. I personally believe he's probably still just a middle to back end of the rotation guy who's overperforming right now. But I do see the potential, and I do see that there maybe is a chance that he becomes maybe better than we think. All right, the next thing I want to get into here is also going back to the first game of the Philly series, and that's one of the few mistakes that I've really seen Mendoza make. Now, Mendoza is a very good manager. I'm very happy that the Mets have him. I'm not here to criticize Mendoza, but I think you do have to call out mistakes when they happen. And I think this year especially, he's made some strange decisions with the bullpen. I think that there's been times where he's left guys in too long or even pulled guys too early. Last night, I think it was right to take Megill out after 5 1/3. He was in the 90s in his pitches. He was about to face Castellanos for the third time. Castellanos is a fastball hitter. Megill's best pitch is his fastball. Maybe he had gotten Castellanos out on his fastball, so I understand not wanting to have him face that guy a third time through. That's kind of what Mendoza said in the postgame. He said, we didn't really want him facing Castellanos again. That was a concern. And also he had thrown some pitch. He was in the 90s in his pitches, so it was time to go to the bullpen. I have no issue with that. I'd rather see him yank a guy a little too early than a little too late. So having Megill come out after 5 1/3, I have no issue with that whatsoever. Bringing in Garrett there is perfect. Get the last 2 outs of the inning. And then going to Kranick. Now, Kranick pitched 2 great innings. And I have no issue even with him trying for a third inning out of Kranick. Probably not something I would necessarily do, but listen, I'm not going to criticize that portion of it. He only threw, I think, 21 or 22 pitches through those 2 innings, so I don't think it's unheard of to have him go 3. But as soon as he gave up that hit in the 9th inning, I'm thinking to myself, and I'm sure a lot of other fans were thinking, okay, he's done. He's out of gas. He's not going to continue. And then you could see him missing all of his pitches right in the middle of the zone. They were even pointing it out on the broadcast. He was missing everything that he was missing. He was trying to hit the corner, it ended up in the middle of the plate. He was definitely running out of gas. Then he was into 30-something pitches, and everyone's saying, let's get him out of there. And then he puts another runner on base and then gives up a run. And then now all of a sudden it's kind of a game. You got 2 guys on and you're only up by 4. And now you have to bring in Diaz. So I think it was a mistake not bringing him out for that 3rd inning, not bringing him out for the 9th, but to leave him in and let him kind of get knocked around before you take him out. And then Edwin Diaz has to come in. And it's not a clean inning. And we know that Edwin struggles when it's not a clean inning. And when he has runners on base, he doesn't do well. So to bring him in a night that he never expected to have to pitch, right? You're up 5-0 in the 9th. He's not expecting to come in the game. He thinks he has a night off. And then all of a sudden he has to get up and get warm. And it throws him off of his rhythm. And now he's coming in with guys on base. And he ends up giving up a 3-run home run to make it 5-4. Now he got through it. And he got a couple big outs there against Bryce Harper and Trey Turner, striking them out. But it should have all been avoided. If they didn't go to Kranick or stick with Kranick in the 9th, right after he gave up that first hit, he should have been out of the game, in my opinion. That's what you usually do. When you're pushing a guy an extra inning, as soon as a runner gets on base, he comes out of the game. So I'm not in the business very often of questioning Mendoza, but I think this year his bullpen usage has been a little questionable in certain situations, especially last night. But hey, all's well that ends well. They won the game. I'm not going to rant about it. It's not a crazy thing, but it's just something that I while I was watching the game, I said this isn't going to end well. Kranick is not going to be able to get through this inning. All right, the next topic we're going to go over here is Francisco Lindor, and that the fact that there is no April slump for Lindor this year. It's something that we worried about coming into the season. How long and how deep is that slump going to go for Lindor? Because he is never a guy who starts out well. This time last year, or in April overall of last year, he hit .210 and had 11 RBIs. He did hit 5 home runs in April last year, but it was basically a home run or nothing for him last April. And it kind of started off a little bit this season where we thought maybe he would slump. The first series or two, he looked off. He was striking out a lot. He just didn't look like he had his timing. But he's picked it up, especially over the last 7 days. If you look at the last 7 days, what's he hitting? He's hitting .379 with 4 home runs and 7 RBIs. That's big for Lindor. 4 home runs in a week is really good, obviously. And overall, he's hitting .284 so far this year with 5 home runs and 13 RBIs. He's got an .840 OPS, so he's really hitting the ball well. And those numbers are even after he struggled for the first week or week and a half of the season. So he's really picked it up lately. You could see, I love his post-game and his comments after the game when he's asked questions about himself, and he completely deflects everything away from him to his teammates. He says, I wouldn't have been able to hit that 3-run home run if Tyrone Taylor didn't hustle down to first base to beat out a double play. Or, hey, what about Megill? If Megill doesn't give us 5 1/3 scoreless tonight, I'm not in the position to make that, to do that there. So I love the comments out of Lindor. He's the unquestioned leader of this team. He should be named the captain. And with this hot start, a lot of those narratives about him are going to go away. And if he's this hot now, the league better watch out, because we know what he does when the weather starts to get warm and when we get a little later into the season and maybe the games start to matter a little bit more. You know what he does. So this could really be an MVP type year. I know he finished second last year. It's always going to be hard to beat Ohtani. He's got a couple guys on his own team who are probably going to be competing with him for it. But if he's doing this in April, I think it's going to be a gigantic year for Lindor. And the whole narrative of his April slumps, he's killing them right now. So let's hope that continues, and I think that it will. He's just on fire right now. All right, the last thing we're going to get into here is obviously Edwin Diaz has not necessarily been himself this year. He hasn't been the dominant Edwin Diaz. And this is aside from last night where he gave up the 3-run home run in the 9th. He looked really good in the 9th inning last night. He made one bad pitch, 0-2 to Bryson Stott, who actually hits very well against Diaz. He made one bad pitch, and Stott hit it out. Every other pitch was well placed. He was fine. He was great, actually, other than that one pitch. So overall, I'm not concerned based off of last night giving up the home run. But you can see his velocity has been down this year. He's had times where he's come into the game and his first batter, he's throwing 93, 94 mile-an-hour fastballs to the first batter he sees. And I went over it in another video where I said maybe it's the way he warms up, or maybe it's how, I don't know, his preparation or something, because by the second batter, he's throwing 97, 98. So it's just very strange that his velocity can fluctuate so much. But I also think that he's been really bad in non-save situations this year, and in save situations, he's been much better. Barring, last night giving up the home run, or, a couple, you can of course find examples, but he is 6 for 6 in save opportunities, and it's in those non-save opportunities where he's always struggled that he struggled this year. You look at him so far this year, he has almost 10 innings pitched, 9 2/3, and he's got a 5.5 ERA, 7 hits and 6 walks in those 9 2/3, so 13 base runners in 9 2/3, not where you want to be. But he does have 15 strikeouts, but he's given up 2 home runs. So obviously, he has no blown saves. He's 6 for 6 in those opportunities, but he has not been so sharp. And I don't know what that is. There's some days where he can only throw his fastballs for strikes, and some days where he can only throw his sliders for strikes. If I'm being honest right now, I do have concerns about Diaz, because I just don't think he's ever going to be the guy that he was pre-knee injury. I just don't think he's ever going to be that guy again. I don't think we're ever going to see him in August with a 1.5 ERA. I just don't think that's what he is anymore. But I do think he can still be a very good closer. I think he could still be a top-end closer. I just don't think he's a top 2 or 3 closer in baseball anymore. He's probably a top 10 closer in baseball, which there's nothing wrong with. Now, you can say he gets paid like the best closer. It doesn't matter. that he got paid for what he did, and then he got hurt and whatever. It doesn't matter what his contract is. I think people get too caught up in that. But when he signed that contract, he was the best closer in baseball, and he's just not anymore. So I don't have long-term concerns that he won't at least be good. I just know that I think I take him for what he is at this point. He's just not the guy that he was a couple years ago. He's not, and he's not going to be. As long as he continues not to blow saves, and I don't really care if he gives up runs in a non-save situation. If you're down by 6 already or you're up by 7, okay, that's the point where you should give up some runs. It doesn't bother me. Go ahead and do that. Even last night, I actually felt more comfortable after he gave up the home run because I was like, okay, now there's nobody on base. Even if he gives up another solo shot here, it's just tied, and I know the Mets will come back and win it in the bottom of the 9th. But I really had more confidence in him once the bases were cleared than I did with a couple guys on base, because Diaz just doesn't do well with people on base. So overall, like I said, not concerned, but I understand why people would be concerned. I don't think it's wrong to be concerned. I don't think that you're wrong for feeling that way. It's just maybe I have different expectations of Edwin Diaz at this point than a lot of people do. All right, so that's it for today, the first episode of this new series, the Daily Mets Rundown. Please tell me how you like it. Put it in the comments. Let me know what you think about these topics I just went over. If you're still here, subscribe to me, give me a like, and until next time, let's go Mets.